Hey. How you doing? Appreciate you stopping by to the channel, to the podcast or whatever. Anyways, how you doing? It's Friday. So this past week I went on stage again for my third and fourth time. I went in the same venue. It was Monday. It was one day. I had a plan of what I was going to say. I went up, and then it was actually a really small amount of people, right? It was a small night, small amount of people who were performing, and even less people who were there just to watch. So that actually made it pretty uncomfortable. One thing I noticed is that I was a little bit nervous, like, oh, I don't want to, there's only 3 people sitting at a table right over there to my right. I don't want to stare directly at them. So I noticed I was staring down, looking around. I don't know what I was looking at. Looking around. I mean, I felt like I was just looking around like a crazy person. But anyways, I thought it went all right. I thought it went okay. But like I've said before, and I've talked to other people, sometimes it's hard to gauge. Excuse me. Sometimes it's really hard to gauge, Sometimes when I'm up there talking, I feel like, oh man, is someone going to laugh soon? What's going on? I feel like I'm just talking. And sometimes I just feel like I'm like the chef from the Muppets. Doesn't he make a sound like that? And his head's moving around super crazy in his hands, and he's cooking. That's kind of how I feel when I'm done talking. But it's fine. I'm still learning here. What do you expect? What do you want from me? What do you want from me, huh? Okay, so anyways, let's talk about what did I actually talk about? Oh, I forgot. Okay. So when I first went up there, not kidding, I spaced. I was just as I was walking up to the stage, I kind of had a mini panic attack because in my mind I was I totally forgot what I was going to say. It went bye-bye. It just left my brain. And so I got on stage and I just out loud was oh man, I hope I can remember what I was going to say. So then I just went to some normal phrases it's my third time being up here on the stage, and it's good to be here, and good to see you guys. And so after I got through that, my brain was oh, okay. My brain was yeah, here we go. It's time to go. And so I went ahead and started. And I'm going to just go ahead and recap. I'm going to try to retell the jokes that I told. So I basically just started, was man, nowadays, everyone's so healthy, aren't they? Isn't everyone so healthy? The calories, and you got to eat the right food and all that type of stuff. And then I was there's people that do this thing who are healthy. They actually weigh their food. And I'm that's interesting to me. You buy a scale, you cut up your steak, and you weigh your food. And if some of the food is if it weighs too much, you put it away and you save it for later and you don't eat it, which to me is mind-boggling because I hardly ever just save food for later. It's my mission. I must eat everything now. Sorry, I got a little carried away. But yeah, and so to me, I was trying to make a joke about that. And then I started, so my next part about that was, to me, okay, now let me just let you in on a little secret here. Let me just let you in on a tiny little secret. It's not a secret. Okay, here's a secret. Is that I like food. I enjoy eating food. Food brings me happiness. Food brings me joy. So the point I was trying to make, and I'm drawing this out. I don't know if anyone's going to listen to this, but the point I was trying to make is that why would I ever limit myself? Why would I ever limit how much happiness I'm getting? by measuring my food. Oh no, 5 ounces, that's too much joy for me today. Let's cut that back to 2 ounces. See, I should have added something like that when I was on stage. But the problem is, or what I'm realizing is when I just record these podcasts, like I talk like crazy. Like listen to my voice. But if you listen to my voice when I'm on stage, I'm just like, people buy a scale. It's a little tiny scale and they weigh their food and they don't eat it all. And and yeah, it's so monotone, but I'm going to get better at it. It's okay. And it's all right. And it's okay. It's going to be all right. And it's going to be okay. So I did a little story about that. And then I talked about how, sometimes we can get a little weird when it comes to health and diet. And I told another story. This was a true story. One of my friends, him and I, whenever we see each other, we're always like, how's the diet, buddy? And he's like confessing sin, like, went to Del Taco last night. And it's like, man, I just went there too, like 3 times, And anyways, one night he told me, he's like, yeah, the family was having In-N-Out, but I decided to do something different. I'm like, okay, cool. So what'd you do? Did you skip the In-N-Out? And he's like, oh, no. I still ate the In-N-Out, double cheeseburger, fries, Coke, but I added a carrot. I added a large carrot and I'm just like, I don't care what you did with it. I don't care if you ate 2 carrots, but that's not helping you. Okay? That is not. You think that good carrot is going to take away the bad food that you ate? And so I shared about that. And I used this analogy, which I think was maybe not the best analogy. It was like if you rob 3 people and then the 4th person you give like $4. I was trying to use that as an analogy as like what he just did by adding the carrot, but I don't know if it really made sense. But anyways, I talked about that, and then I think after that, and that's the other thing I'm still learning, is like how long I'm on stage. But it's all right. I'm the whole thing's a new process. What am I saying process for? The whole thing is a new journey. And I ended up wrapping that one up. It was about 3.5 minutes, which was fine. I was like, all right, guys, that's all I got. Thank you. And I was out of there. And I sat back down. So then I knew that the host of the night, I had a feeling that she was going to say, oh, if anyone wants to back up again, let me know and we'll let you go back up, because we had the time and we had a small amount of people. And so I decided that if she asks me, I'm going to go back up. So she asked and I was like, yeah, I'm going to go back up. So I had a story in mind of what I was going to tell. And then I was just kind of adding in filler, trying to add in some filler there. So the story that I told was how sometimes in public, I do these things that could be really awkward. And I'm pretty sure I've talked about this before on this podcast, but it's all right. So I shared that story, how I ran into this person who I worked with at a previous job. And I was like, hey, Amy, right? Amy? And I knew her name. She didn't know my name. She didn't know who I was. And then I shared how, I was like, what? I'm an introvert, but sometimes I do these weird things where I actually open my mouth in public and I talk to people, which I think a normal introvert, and maybe I don't know the definition of an introvert, but a normal definition of an introvert was that they would just not even leave the house, and sometimes I end up in this position where it's like, why did I even open my mouth? I did the same thing too. I ran into this guy that I knew from elementary school at a pumpkin patch one year, and I was like, oh, hey, Sean, hey, you're Sean, right? Yeah, I went to the same elementary school as you. And he was just like, I have no idea who you are, bro. I have no idea who you are. And obviously, granted, to him, it's fine because I look way different. I look totally different than what I look like when I was younger. Like I weigh a little bit more and I have less hair. So what are you going to do? You know what I mean? I got a beard now. And even in that moment, right? I actually had, this is embarrassing, but I had an old ID in my wallet. And I was like, oh, let me just, in the back of my mind, it's like, hey, buddy, hey, Just show them your old ID that you have in your wallet. And then I was like, no, that would not be good. That would be very dumb. We're not doing that, buddy. You know, I'm having this conversation in my head, you know, about this. And so luckily I had enough wisdom or enough wherewithal, what does that mean? To decide not to show them my old ID, which would have been ridiculous. But anyway, so I shared that story, and then I tried to get to the funny part, which was, I told this lady that, or I asked her like the best, wonderful, worst question you could ever ask a girl in public. I was like, where do you live? Where do you reside? And she was like, oh, well, just around. And she got nervous and scared or whatever. I need to stop saying whatever. And that was like part of the funny part, I guess. And then I was like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that. Oh my gosh, how do I recover from this? You know, and then I was like, I ended the conversation, but then I realized I found out where she lived. You know, because I saw her in the neighborhood. And so the next line that I had was, I'm trying to learn from my mistakes. Instead of opening my mouth, if I ever see her in the grocery store, I just pretend she's not there. And so what that looks like is if I'm in the aisle and she's in front of me, I'll just run her over with my cart. And so I said that, and like no one laughed at all. And I was like, yeah, that felt kind of dumb. You know, that felt kind of dumb. So then I shared like another version of that story, which is I had this idea that I was going to stand outside her house with the sign that said, Amy, I know where you live, which was like a prank idea. You know, people actually laughed at that. But yeah, anyways, it was fun, man. It was a fun night. At one point, I was just kind of like saying some random stuff, and I was like, when I was talking about how I'm an introvert and I do these things, and I started talking about how, man, like what made me decide that I'm going to go up on stage and try stand-up comedy, and someone in the audience, which was the host, she was like, because you want to make us laugh. And I was like, yeah, exactly. Thank you. I do want to make you laugh. And then right after that, like I froze, my train of thought just was gone, and I froze. And then I was like, oh, I'm sorry about that. I kind of lost my train of thought. And then she goes, I'm sorry. So then I say, oh, it's okay. I'm watching these YouTube tutorials on, you know, how to interact with people when you're doing stand-up comedy, and apparently the one that talks about how to interact with the crowd is like tutorial number 5, and I'm like only on number 3. So I said that. People laughed at that. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of what's going on, you know what I'm saying? That's kind of the deal. It was fun. I felt good about it. It was fun. It wasn't the most amount of laughs, but I'm just trying to get better at being on stage. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to get better at just my confidence while I'm there with the microphone and on the stage. And it's been cool. I've been getting a lot of good feedback, so I appreciate all the feedback that I've gotten from people. Some people are like, oh man, you already look like you're getting more comfortable. They're like, oh, that was good. Some people are like, man, this is funny. I don't know why these people aren't laughing, or but it was cool. So I appreciate all that. I've been getting a lot of feedback actually, and it's pretty cool. It's just cool to hear. And yeah, I just want to keep on getting better. I just want to keep on going up on stage, throwing out some concepts. One thing, I found this video recently by this one guy who has a YouTube channel that's called Let's Talk About Comedy, and he broke down like 5 minutes of like a Bernie Mac special or whatever. Bernie Mac on stage. Hilarious, man, hilarious. But he broke down just a bunch of different points of how like Bernie Mac was so good at like escalating his humor, and using one concept and then being able to go on and on about that same concept, and adding more details, adding more scenarios, doing act outs where like he's pretending to be a character in a story. Pardon me. But yeah, it was cool. So it kind of challenges me to think differently, to think a little bit more deeper maybe, or to come up with more ideas. and being able to, because I want to try to do that. I want to try to take a concept and then fill the time with that one concept. But I may need to come up with more like opinions or viewpoints about that concept, and maybe more comparisons or contrasts, those types of things. But yeah, that's pretty much it, man. It's already been almost 16 minutes of me running my mouth. So I'm going to wrap this up. You guys have a good day.